Hi, everybody. It is Heidi M, and I'm joined virtually today by a member of Fempire, Kit Simmons. Kit, it's so nice to have you in the virtual room.
Thank you so much. Thanks for meeting with me.
So, Kit, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are in this group called Fempire, and what is Fempire about?
Sure. So I'm one of the newer members. I'm not one of the core founding members.
Hmm.
My joining of this group is sort of through BIMBOS,
Hmm.
um, which started last summer. So uh, for myself, I'm a disabled artist and theater maker. I work as an actor, I work as a director. I do fights and intimacy coordination and choreo. And I've been working out of Hamilton for a while. So joining Fempire, which we're all located in Hamilton, has been really welcome. Some of the folks from the core group I have done projects with before. We've known each other for years. So yeah, it's nice getting to connect. I'd say one of the most welcoming parts of it is Fempire really prioritizes like people-centered process,
Hmm.
and most of us are like some kind of mad or disabled or on the neurodivergent spectrum. So recognizing what that means for process and for product and being able to accommodate each other in the room and kind of build new ways of thinking about making theater,
Right.
that's resonated with me because a lot of traditional theater spaces, and certainly the way I was trained to make theater, are just no longer sustainable or accessible for me. So
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you for saying that because I was going to ask you if you had worked in conventional theater and what that was like for you.
Yeah, I have. I think, I mean, throughout theater school, this notion of rigor was talked about a lot, and I resonate with that. I think we do, theater is in a way an industry of reliability. Like we do need a rigorous approach.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the ways that we motivate that or police that within groups can be so dysfunctional, and not recognizing people's needs in the space or thinking that needs are only unilateral can be harmful and can be dangerous. So trying to decentralize a lot of those power structures and need negotiations has been part of what has made Fempire feel so welcome to me.
Sounds really interesting. So for folks who are gonna listen to this or watch, the Fempire is actually a group of artists, as you mentioned, and you put together a show called Bimbos in Space that showed at the Fringe in Hamilton last year. So congratulations on that. And it's coming now to Toronto through the SummerWorks program. So, what's that journey been like of putting on the first iteration for Fringe Festival and now kind of expanding it?
It's been so joyful, so rewarding. Definitely not without its, but being able to return to a piece as many times as we have, even over what is kind of still a short process.
Mhm.
Like in 2 years, we did the piece for Fringe. We brought it back for the AGH Fest. They had a few Fringe pieces move on to go up again in October, and then bringing it back to SummerWorks again, witnessing all of our actors inhabit their characters more fully. We all have so much more familiarity and vocabulary within the world that Claude's created in this play. Um,
Mhm.
and for a lot of us, this is either a newer process or people are in newer roles. I don't have a ton of directing experience myself. So being able to hone in on that and having a really compassionate space to look back at what worked last time and what didn't, and hold all of that with honesty and integrity and just roll through to the next thing and try and implement those changes. I really cherish that. That's meant a lot to me.
That's so cool. And for folks who are not familiar, Bimbos in Space, what is the premise of Bimbos in Space?
Okay, it's described as a stupid, sexy sci-fi satire.
Yeah.
Um, all of the tropes of sci-fi satire, all of the opportunity that sci-fi offers us to recognize what's already dysfunctional in our world and just blow it up into something kind of campy and inane enough that we can actually consider it. But all of those tropes are kind of turned on their head because we've made this show and this universe where a lot of the sort of classic aspects of patriarchy are just thrown out the window or totally flipped on their head. um, I'm sure someone will accuse us of being man hating, and that's fine. But it's been a lot of like just taking those tropes that have traditionally been so objectifying to women and so um, so keen on upholding the male gaze and just twisting them right around.
Mhm.
It's really fun. It's like pro sex worker, pro accessibility for neurodivergent folks. It's just a campy good old time. I don't know what more you want me to like. I
No,
can.
that's great because I think people should also come see for themselves. I tend to steer away from giving too much plot or storyline because then, it's like a trailer that's 5 minutes long.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to give away the plot too much.
Yeah.
I can say like we have a tampon god. We have our villains are named after the SESTA and FOSTA anti-sex trafficking laws. Like
Mhm.
just we go to weird places with it. So I don't want to give it away too much. I want people to come
No, that's no,
see
that's
it.
great. And I know folks, you can read about the show at SummerWorks.ca if you really want to know a little bit more about it. Um, from what I've seen, that's why I'm speaking to you because I'm ready to go. I want to see it. I want to experience it. And I also liked the reference to some of the cult films, maybe from the 60s too, which I also have grown up watching and I still watch. We know they're ridiculous, right? But now as you get older, then you take it with a different kind of, pair of glasses on.
Totally. I think a lot of that is also about um, whose story gets told in those films and whose doesn't. And
Mhm.
sci-fi is giving us space to imagine better futures. And we also have to consider, who's welcome at the table in those discussions and whose lives can be represented in those imagined and projected futures. So
Right.
that's that aspect of the representation has been important for us as well, and like an ongoing negotiation in the making of this piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also so cool that sci-fi lends itself to that. And similarly, I spoke to a different artist who works with the horror genre type of things, right? Because you can kind of stretch things a little bit and have that freedom to go to places that will still make us question and
Yeah.
talk about stuff after.
Yeah, and almost have that safer distance to talk about it.
Hmm.
Sometimes you see it in a realistic fiction setting and it just feels a little too real. So I think
Mm.
sci-fi, we can celebrate the good stuff, we can shoot the bad stuff with lasers, we can question all of it, and then come home and think about where it applies or where it doesn't. But yeah.
So you mentioned that you wear different hats in this production. Are you directing again for this round and other stuff?
Yeah, we are, I mean, we're working on a SummerWorks budget, so we're doing our best. I this time around I am directing intimacy and fight coordinating, doing some design, and then I will also be actually taking the stage in this one too. We've our process this summer has been challenged by a couple like logistical and sort of systemic access issues. So
Sure.
we still want to make the show happen, even if it's by the skin of our teeth. So yeah, I'm doing everything I can to keep it to bring the best thing that I can. So that does involve me being an actor in this one too.
Hmm. And I mean, I think it's fair for us to know these things even before going to a show that there are, festivals, and because of the state of the arts world as well in Canada, that the funding is not always there, that there are going to be instances where people have to wear different hats, not because you love it so much or maybe you're great at it, but sometimes it is the circumstances, like you mentioned, that.
Yeah. Yeah, we had applied for more funding. We didn't get it. We still really wanted to do the show. Some of that's also like getting a proof of concept and going back to the grant drafting later on. So
Right.
we are kind of hoping that bringing it to SummerWorks will get some more audiences on it, testimonials, etc., and then
Mhm.
get more funding to develop it further. But yeah, it's not ideal, but we still love it and want to make it work. So.
Well, I mean, it shows from what you're telling me that you enjoy it. And I think it's also good for audiences to know that our feedback is important when we go to shows. You know, sure, we're told to share on social media, but there's a reason to share. It's not just immediate reactions. It's also because it leads to potential further funding or potential other shows too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've already made some really lovely community connections uh, through the Hamilton community after the first Fringe,
Right.
especially from like sex workers in the area who were so excited to see some of like some aspects of their lives shown on stage,
Yes.
not weird stereotyping way. So
Yeah.
trying to keep that rolling and make those community connections is important to us too.
Yes.
And hoping Toronto has you have a bit of a wider reach, and hopefully that'll work out in our favor again.
The one I wanted to kind of touch base with you was there is this sort of a content warning on the website, and I think it's interesting and playful because it talks, for anyone who's hasn't read it, it's about the content of the show. It can be sexually explicit or includes playful innuendos, and I know why it's there. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to ask, what's been the response from general audiences? Because I know there are different communities that kind of have experienced the show, and kind of what you can share about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a kid's show. I think I haven't heard much about people going, "Oh, that was too much. You pushed it too far."
Mhm.
Because there are some sexual moments, but I think we've done such a campy treatment of all the sexy moments anyway that it's not, sex to shock the audience or sex to just put sex on stage. It's like sex to enjoy because it's funny or because that power dynamic is needed or because that would be a reality for the characters on stage. I haven't heard I haven't heard anything yet, knock on wood, about anyone going, wow, that was really too much and this is totally inappropriate, etc. We'll see. I hope people read the warnings and know what they're getting into.
Mhm.
Um,
It just seems like the reception has been quite positively received, and also the fact that it's like you mentioned earlier too, the dealing of topics that can be seen too serious in some ways, but in a way that also kind of make us chuckle. And then like once we leave, we're like, oh yeah, that's what it was meant.
Yeah, we did get accused by one reviewer of making it like a feminist 101 lecture, which is, fine. The theory's there, the discourse underscores the whole plot. So
Hmm.
if he can't see through all of that discourse to still fall in love with the characters and the events, there's
Mhm.
only so much we can do. I think this time around we've made a few changes to the script. I think it's all like more lovable and more fun. So
Mhm.
maybe you will get another instance of that again, but I don't feel inclined to take a lot of responsibility for a reaction like that, to be
For
honest.
sure. No, and I
Yeah.
think it's also an individual reaction as much as it is sometimes a big group reaction. And I think I came across something online the other day where it talks about like reviews should be, yes, I can disagree with what's presented, but you still should be deciding for yourself whether to take in the art or the movie or the show, because there's something enough that I'm telling you that you should experience it for yourself. And I think it's too easy to say, oh, this is just too much of this, but then you don't give me the reasons why it's still good or why it's still
Yeah.
good. So,
Yeah, that sort of personal, I mean, I don't really believe in objectivity. I think it's always going to be a little more
mm,
political than that, but
sure.
reviewers trying to pass it off as like it just didn't resonate with me and therefore it sucks. I like, I don't know, try harder. There's something in it for everyone, and I think a good reviewer can recognize that even if it doesn't land for them, for sure.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it's feedback. Like you said, sometimes you do use it as feedback to give us a new version, or like you said, maybe new story, parts of the story or new characters. Like I know that's part of the reason I always like to promote SummerWorks too, because sometimes we know this is like another venue for artists to kind of expand on their work and kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So how many performances are at SummerWorks? I know that I should know this, but it's not on my fingertips.
To be honest, I barely have it remembered myself. It's three performances, and I want
Yes,
to say it's August 6th, 8th, 6th, 7th, and 8th,
6, 7, and 8. Yes,
in the evening each time. And we're at Factory Theater.
great space.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. And for anybody who's looking to kind of hear more about Fempire, is there a website or social media handles that I can share with them as well?
Let me just pull up our tag.
Yes.
I want to say XO Fempire on Instagram, but I will just double check that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for folks who are gonna watch, I'll definitely put that in the description, but I'll also tag it once I put things on social media.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yeah, it's XO Fempire, fem with two M's.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Excellent. Um, so Kit, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you sharing so much about this show. For anybody who's interested, that is Bimbos in Space at SummerWorks in Toronto, Factory Theater, August 6, 7, 8, all evening shows. And SummerWorks.ca is the place to go for more details and tickets. Thank you again, Kit.
Thank you so much.